And welcome to the best man on the edge. And welcome to you too. So, what we have here is the Lionsteel Best Man, a slip joint knife. And I think that is the first slip joint on the channel. So this knife is part of Lionsteel's Tradition series, and quite interestingly, when you go onto the site, this knife actually has a configurator. So you can configure this knife to your heart's content, well, within limits. So very, very interesting. So you have a number of options on the knife. You can choose the knife in carbon fiber, ebony, micarta, santos wood, or olive. And in the blade, there's a couple of blade steels available as well, but not blade steels, a couple of blade shapes. So you've got the clip point, and they call this the clip point, and then you've got a drop point blade as well. And then you get an option that has two blades. It's got a Warney on one side, and then whichever other blade you choose on the other side. So very, very interesting. And it actually says on the site that once you've configured your knife, it will be available in 24 hours. So quite impressive. Right, so I've spoken about the other options on the knife already. So, guys, I'm going to do the usual now: materials, dimensions, and weight, and then we'll speak a little bit about the design and attributes of this incredibly tidy, classically styled little knife. Right, guys, so we've got a blade of Bowler M390, so very good blade steel there. The handle in this particular instance is a natural micarta, and we've got the titanium bolsters. The liner, so it's got a little liner on the inside there, that is a titanium as well. And then the slip joint back, I suppose, what does one call it on a slip joint? The lock, back spacer, that is in stainless steel. And then we've got a pivot that is made with bronze washers. Right, let's lay that down there again. Dimensions and weight. So blade length, we've got 73.5 millimeters. That's 2.89 inches. Blade thickness of 2.5 millimeters or 0.1 inch. Closed length of the knife is 96.5 millimeters. That's 3.8 inches. Handle thickness, I didn't mention that. Handle thickness is 11.9 millimeters, and that's 0.46 inches. And then overall length of the knife is 170 millimeters, that's 6.69 inches. Right, and then I'm not going to weigh the guy. I've already weighed him. So as you can expect for a knife this size, pretty light. So it is 68 grams, and that is 2.4 ounces. Right, guys, let's speak about the design of the knife. So as I said, well, and I've got fingerprints all over that satin blade. So let me wipe it. This knife deserves to be nice and clean. It is such a gentlemanly, shall we say, knife. But very, very classically styled and incredibly elegant little knife. So I mentioned a clip point blade. You can see it's got a swedge that runs, I guess, roughly halfway on the blade, all the way to the tip, and then a little nail neck, oblong shaped nail neck. Flat grind, deep grind, you can see that goes the full width of the blade, and then a very, very tidy, incredibly tidy edge on this knife, and very sharp out of the box. Got a plunge line that runs right from the spine of the blade all the way down to the sharpening choil. A neat little sharpening choil there certainly gives you enough room to touch up that blade if you need to be. If you need to, not if you need to be. The satin grind on the blade also very nicely done. It is very beautifully finished off this knife. Spine of the blade nicely rounded as well. Get you a little bit of an angle in that. And if you look at that rounded shape perfectly runs onto the back spacer lock. I'm not sure what, as I said, I'm not sure what you call that on a slip joint. I'll just refer to that as the back spacer from now on. But you can see how nicely that runs, that rounded back runs all the way along the spine of the knife and then onto that end. So it really is beautifully styled, nicely finished, this knife. Right, I think I've covered off everything of the blade and a little bit of the handle as well. So the rest of the handle also really beautifully styled, nicely rounded around the edge, so the knife very comfortable in hand. The micarta smoothly finished off, this natural micarta, and by the way, I do really like the look and feel of micarta, and it really does suit this knife. And then we've got those titanium bolsters with that sort of same rounding, beautifully finished off. discrete little lines milled into the bolsters as well. Interesting little design detail. So you can see this rounded shape around the edge of the handle, but if you look at either end, it's got these little facets. So it's not rounded and it's not flat. It's just these subtle little facets to that end and to the other end of the handle. It just adds a little bit of extra detail to what is, other than that, quite a plain handle. You look at that, it's very sort of squared off, rectangular shaped handle with the gentlest curve. You can see it's just got a slight little curve to the handle. In hand, that's what it looks like in my medium-sized hands, but you can see for such a small knife, I get my medium size. Mentioned in other reviews, I wear a large glove. You can see I very comfortably get onto that. Bigger hands, you're gonna sort of stray off the back there, but that's to be expected in a small gentleman's folder like this. And I didn't mention that this knife clearly falls into that whole gentleman's folder category of knives. And you can see there Lionsteel very neatly done on the blade, and Italy, see if that will pick that up. I'm not sure if it is going to. Italy M390, the blade steel. Beautifully done. Look at that little bit of Torx hardware as well. Nice little bit of detail on the two big screws. You can see on that side there. And we've got the same shaping on that little Torx screw. And that's the same on both sides of the knife, obviously. But yeah, guys, I mean, I suppose there's not too much to say about the knife other than it is beautifully finished off and classically styled. Really does look good, and it's got a lovely solid feel to it as well. The knife really does, that weight feels right for the size of knife. And then that action is, for a slip joint type knife. So, you've obviously got those stages, it sort of stages as you open the knife, but it has got a really nice, smooth action to it. So, yeah, really, really beautiful knife, a compelling knife. If you're looking for that sort of traditional style of gentleman's carry, EDC style knife, really beautifully finished and quite interesting and fascinating and I suppose nice. It adds to the whole process that you can, if you order the knife directly from Lionsteel, that you can actually configure this knife and sort of, in inverted commas, get it tailor-made within limits to what you actually want. I think that really smart, covers off everything on the knife, but really nice. I'm impressed with it. It feels good in hands. It's an attractive looking knife, and nice. If you live in an area where you can't have a lockback style knife or a one-handed opening knife, a really very nice option if you're limited by your the blade length as well, 2.89 inches. I know that there are places that you can't have a blade length more than 3 inches, so this certainly will meet all those criteria, and you still have a very good looking little knife in your pocket and well made. Right, let's. Oh, by the way, before I forget, let me just quickly say this is another knife that I have stolen out of Blades and Triggers stock, and I really do appreciate them allowing me to steal knives from by agreement for me to have a look at and review. Do really appreciate their support of the channel, and this knife, as I always do say, this knife and many other interesting knives available from Blades and Triggers. Check out their website, BNT Online. And now the only thing really left to do is maybe some size comparisons. And, well, I might as well, I suppose. Let's do this. Let's do the Manix 2. So you can see that. Clearly, this is a very discreet EDC, the type of EDC knife that you can just about take anywhere. And I'm not going to use the, maybe I will. I'll use the, where's that? The Benchmade Mini Barrage, because they probably are not too dissimilar in length. Yeah, the Benchmade Mini Barrage, a little bit longer, but certainly more kind of elegant and dressy on the BestMan. Nice, good name for it, I think. as well, actually. And then I brought out a couple of other knives. These little knives, I mean, you know, for what it's worth, these are knives that actually belonged to my dad. And this knife is the Kershaw Officer Ranch. And my dad actually used to carry this knife with him quite a lot, you know, the little gentleman's folder. In fact, this knife has been used in anger many, many times. In fact, this was quite often he used as his biltong carving knife. Now, biltong, if you haven't been to South Africa, you might not know what that is. And I suppose the best description might be beef jerky. But if you've ever been to South Africa and tasted biltong, you will know once you've tasted it, you will come back for more. Anyway, that knife, I can remember often seeing him carving off a piece of biltong with this little Kershaw. So this is a little Kershaw that sort of circa early 80s for that little knife. So and the reason I'm bringing this on is because it's the only really kind of little tiny nail nick gentleman's folder I think that I really have in my collection. And obviously the fact that it did belong to my dad makes it quite special. And then the other knife that he had but never used is this little guy. So this is the Schrade, one of the Schrade Scrimshaw knives, and this was the SC506 with the what they call the Barlow Art Series, I think, and this little bit of artwork there by somebody called Giorgiani. But there as well, I think this knife also circa 1981, I think it was. But again, I think this is the only slip joint knife that I have in my collection. So yeah, I thought I brought that in as well. So another one of my dad's knives. So let's have a look at that. That's really, really old school. But there we go, for what it is worth. And see the knife on. I don't actually know which way to put that down. That's the right way up for the blade, but that's the right way up for the little bit of artwork. Right, guys, and I think that is it. There's not much to say about the knife, even though I feel that I should, because it is so nicely made. You know, it's one of those knives that seems crafted rather than just manufactured, and not an inexpensive knife, but I suppose a knife that would be nice to have this sort of classical styled slip joint in the collection. Good looking, handsome, attractive knife. Because I think that is it. Covered off everything on that. I once again really do appreciate you joining me and sharing your time with me, and I would equally appreciate it, as I always do say, if you would hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you can be informed every time I launch a new launch. I always say launch every time I upload a new video, because I really would love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well and God bless.